I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Our rat's ass about
Whoa, he has trouble with the spin, and the ball is free.
Cast starts going, all crazy. And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to not another CFB pod. We're still talking about bowls. We're still previewing NFL. It's week 17 in the NFL, getting way down the road. It's exciting. I just got off the road, so all my Christmases are done. I literally just unpacked the car and hopped on the pod. Anything for the pod, you guys know me. But yeah, I need to focus on ball. I'm glad I'm done with travel for now because my picks this midweek thing sucked, but we'll talk about that. I got to introduce my main man though, Coda Capper Beast. How you doing?
Doing good, man. We kind of shook off a little tough last weekend. I've done okay on some of these midweek games.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the weekend slate, obviously, because we're really starting to dig into some of these big time bowls. You know what I mean? Like obviously all the New Year's Six, but even some of the games that are outside of that, like we're getting good matchups, top 25 teams. It makes it a lot more fun when we're watching good ball, and we've had some good ones last couple days.
We've been blessed with some really good football games, some wild finishes. We'll preview those. This is kind of how the show is going to go. We're going to kind of look back at the bowls that have been going on, kind of update that. Then we'll jump right into, we're going to go college football preview, and we've got some big time bowls. You're absolutely right when you said that. We've got the playoff going on this weekend.
Yep.
I'm very much looking forward to that. We'll preview both of those games pretty much in depth as far as we can go. Then we'll get into picks. We're going to do the pick show just like we always do, preview and picks. So let's start with the review because that's what we got to do. Okay. So we had some games and I bet on some games and I lost some games. You did a little bit better. That's good. I'm going to read through these. And if there's one that stands out, you might just do something. Georgia Southern Buffalo and the Camellia Bowl. Not much there. I had the over. It never had a chance. Buffalo got the win 23-21. So shout out to them. They did a lot of work just to get bowl eligible, and they've got a pretty good bowl streak going now. So what do you know? Memphis whooped up on Utah State. Very disappointed in Utah State, but a good result for Memphis in the First Responder Bowl, 38-10. Good win for them. Coastal Carolina, East Carolina.
Yeah.
East Carolina put it on Coastal, man. 53-29. I thought I liked Coastal, just that one last ride for our guy Grayson.
Yeah, Grayson McCall. Yeah,
McCall.
No, it was tough.
Allen.
It was tough, man. That was one of those games where I was kind of watching that. Yeah, he did. That was a crazy play where he did that flip into the end zone and stuff. You know, I mean, there was a lot going on in that game, but their defense just not good. You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference for Coastal typically is like in past years when we've said they're so good, like their defense has been a lot better than what they showed this past week. So it was tough.
Yes, not a great result there. And then we had a very interesting bowl, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, both teams missing basically everyone. Yeah. Wisconsin won it 24-17. It took a while for Oklahoma State to kind of warm up and kind of wake up and get used to who they had on the field. And they had a great fourth quarter, but just came up a little short. That was actually a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
Then we jump in. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that was a game. I looked at the under on it. Couldn't talk myself into it. Wished I did it, obviously, because it still found a way to go under, even though they had a decent amount of, back and forth.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. It was just like Wisconsin was scored in the first half, and then Oklahoma State scored in the second half. There was no in between. Yep. Then we got into some really good games, though. So then we had Wednesday, the 28th, an infamous day because we had some insane results. First off, I guess the most notable one would be the Holiday Bowl. Oregon, North Carolina. Oregon came back, won at 28-17, but this was a game we both talked about the under. We loved the under. I don't know about you, but I didn't even bet the under, and I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah, I said, PG, I think I might have to lock it in after the show on Monday when we were talking about it. And you're right. I didn't end up making an official play on it because I already had two other games going yesterday. So I was like, I'll hold off. But, man, it would have been an easy
It was
winner.
free.
And it was a fun game. Like, give UNC
Yes.
a lot of credit because that's probably the best defense we've seen out of UNC for a lot of the season. Their defense has been awful this year, and actually holding Bo Nix and Oregon to 28, like that's pretty good, right?
Yes, Bo Nix led a game-winning touchdown drive to go ahead, and then they almost missed the extra point.
Right.
It actually doinked in. It hit the inside of the goalpost and doinked straight across, but it would just went inside and went in. And yeah, they got the 1-point win there. We had UCF Duke, not the prettiest game. Duke won at 30-13. We were both on Duke, so that was good. Kansas, Arkansas. This was insane. So I was in Kansas around a bunch of KU fans, and everybody had their phones out because for whatever reason, the house I was in did not have a TV.
Oh gosh.
That's always not great. But basically, when we left to head back to our place, Kansas was down like 25. I had given up on the game. And then I got a notification on my phone that they were only down like 1 touchdown. Next thing you know, they scored a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, send it to OT. But Arkansas did win it in overtime, 55-53. Probably the best game we've had so far.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has to be just because you go to triple overtime and it ended up coming down to just a 2-point conversion. You know what I mean? So it was big difference, and probably what many people expected, I guess, because in my opinion, like we had Kansas, so we were really high on them. But I heard a lot of people that were just like, well, KJ Jefferson's just gonna roll over Kansas. And Kansas hung in there, man. Like Daniels, obviously looked a lot more healthy than he's been in a minute. And that was a fun game. It really was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you got to give it to Kansas for coming back because that game was over. Like I said, I quit watching it. I was watching the other game, which was Texas Tech, Ole Miss. Texas Tech wins it 42-25. We still almost hit the over. I had the over in this one. It was like 71, and it could have happened, but Ole Miss, man, I got a rant on Ole Miss. I don't know what they were doing. They were just on some Bush League stuff. Their players were faking injuries to slow the clock down. On offense, they just like couldn't do anything. They kept turning the ball. Like it was gross. And anyway, Texas Tech got a great win there in the Texas Bowl. And then today, so Thursday, the night we're recording, my team played. First, we'll mention Minnesota and Syracuse. Minnesota won at 28-20 in the Pinstripe Bowl, so the one in Yankee Stadium, which is always kind of interesting to me.
Right.
Usually a day game. It's kind of cool. But OU and Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl, I think I said on Twitter, just like I didn't think OU really had a chance. We were down, I think, 9 starters in total when the game finally did kick off. We were had 2 backup tackles, and on the first or second play, one of those backup tackles got hurt. So we're on the 4th string guy immediately, and he's going up against what's going to be a first-round player in the draft, a defensive end named Jared Verse there for Florida State. Florida State kind of got hit early by OU. It's a great game, back and forth. Florida State, kind of hit a last-minute field goal to win it, 35-32. I just want to say, I was kind of proud of OU for playing that hard. It really had nothing. I mean, Florida State was just one of those things. Like the momentum was insane. Florida State, nobody opted out. That guy I talked about, Jared Verse, it's a first-rounder. He played. They have another guy who's going to get drafted in the secondary that played. They basically, all of our guys opted out and all of their guys opted in, and we were just on totally different wavelengths. But OU battled, thought they might even come up with a win. It was a kind of an unlucky fumble there towards the end. But, it was a good game, 35-32 for Florida State.
Oh, 100%. Very, very good game. You're right. Like Oklahoma, they did everything you wanted them to do except get the win. You know what I mean? They put up 500 total yards of offense. Like they're really running the ball well.
Yes.
It wasn't Gabriel's best game, but he was moving the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest, when you're facing a team like Florida State and Jordan Travis, like he's solid. I'm excited to see what he does next year.
Yes.
Like he's going to be a monster, and he obviously had a big game. I want to say he threw for like 400 yards,
418.
Yeah. So I mean, like he had a great game. He's really tough to stop. There's not a ton of defenses that can really scheme against that. So you got to give OU credit because they were 10-point dogs, and they were right down to the wire with them. So hopefully it's good for recruiting because it'll say like, hey, we didn't just mail it in for the season. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I'm glad this season's over. It was not a very fun year for OU, and we escaped the bowl somewhat healthy. And, we got to look at some of the young guys that are going to be playing next year, and they look pretty good. So there's all of that. I guess now we need to kind of switch gears and talk about what we're about to go into for college football. And then we'll also talk NFL because we know that playoff race is going crazy right now in the NFL. I should mention we've got Texas and Washington playing. I think they're close to halftime right now. And then we've got Dallas Cowboys at Tennessee Titans. Cowboys up, but it's been a close game. Kind of an interesting game. It probably shouldn't be close, but it is. What do you know? So yeah, bam. Let's talk about this weekend. Got some crazy stuff coming up. Let's start on Friday. We got Maryland, NC State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Again, 2 Power 5 teams in a bowl game. Can't complain. We got Pitt and UCLA in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Again, 2 Power 5 teams. One of them's ranked. That's solid. I think one that maybe we'll stop on is Notre Dame, South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. Just because it's interesting, both these programs, Notre Dame kind of rounded out their year better than people would have thought if you looked at the beginning of the year. And then South Carolina, same thing. They've got a ton of momentum in that program right now. Interesting game, 2:30 on ESPN. You got any thoughts on that one?
My question is Rattler playing in that game? I know you have like the –
I can pull – I need to pull that up. I'll give you it. Let me pull up my
but yeah, I mean
list I've got.
Yeah, you're totally right as far as both teams really just kind of finished the season out well. So I'm kind of curious to see how they go into this game because if all their players are playing, like they're going to be motivated to try to finish out 9-4 versus 8-4, especially like Notre Dame started their season off really, really slow and they came on late. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm reading South Carolina's opt-outs, and I do not see Spencer Rattler in there. So
that's
as
big.
of right now, it looks like he's going to play. So that will be big, not only for, he's also, I believe, going in the draft this year. So he needs to kind of make a statement against a good team here. And see, he may have a year left because of COVID, though. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of it, but either
With
way,
the COVID year, it's brutal.
Yeah, either way, he's going to be playing, trying to just kind of put some respect on his name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then we've got the Barstool Arizona Bowl, Ohio and Wyoming. Just wanted to mention it because I think it'll be a fun game. If you're any kind of Barstool fan, I think Beast and I both follow a lot of the main, kind of content creators there for Barstool. Big fan. I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm definitely going to tune in. It's a MAC game, so like anything could happen. We got a good one though in the Orange Bowl going down Friday night. Tennessee, Clemson. Clemson, we hated on them so much early in the year. But honestly, the way they rounded their season out was pretty solid. They did lose to Notre Dame, but they won the ACC. They got a top 10 ranking still. Tennessee, obviously, things have changed for them because of Hendon Hooker's injury. And I think Hyatt is maybe out as well for them. I want to make sure on that. But, yeah, you got any thoughts on the Orange Bowl?
It's wild that we're mentioning like Clemson's losses because now that I think about it, both Clemson's losses were South Carolina and Notre Dame, who we just talked about.
Who were playing in a bowl.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it kind of goes to say of like both those teams in the last matchup had some nice wins. You know what I mean? At the end of the season, like, Clemson's solid as much as you're right. Like we talked smack about them. They just kind of kept stacking up wins. Clemson looked really good in that game against UNC in early December. So, I mean, I'd love to say Clemson just runs away with this game, but even without Hendon Hooker, Tennessee's still been like they've been trying hard. Like they've really been and they've had a couple nice wins, but it makes it harder when you don't have a premier quarterback like that. So I'm a little bit worried for them, but they might be all right.
Yeah, you never know. I'm looking. Hyatt did opt out, and they had another wide receiver, Tillman, opt out. And a starting linebacker opt out. So they've got a couple, Tennessee that is, has a couple of guys out, as does Clemson though. They've got a defensive end and a linebacker that are out. And then obviously DJU's in the portal. They've got a lot of guys in the portal, I feel like, for a Clemson team. Normally they're pretty tight, but it was a weird year for them for sure. All right, so let's move on to Saturday. Saturday gets fun, man. Let's do the 2 non-playoff games, and then we'll talk the 2 playoff games. So starting out, Alabama versus Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. I expect this to be a better game than people think. Like, we think about Alabama, and we've talked about them plenty here. Just kind of, they don't really seem to be the same, quote unquote, same Alabama. And you got to look at Kansas State. They've got a lot of momentum. They won the Big 12. I know they're pretty big underdogs here, but I like their chances. I mean, they're a scrappy team. We're just going to see how they physically match up with Bama because they're recruiting at a much different level than Kansas State does.
Oh yeah, I mean you're spot on there. I want to take Kansas State. I don't know if I'm going to, but I really want to. I don't know if I'll be able to talk myself into it. I got a lot of other plays I like, but you're right. We've said week in and week out, man. It's been a big trend the second half of the season is it's not Nick Saban's typical team. They're missing some of the key position groups that they always have. Specifically, the big one obviously is at receiver. You know, like they always have premier first-round receivers. They don't have that on the team this year, and it's made a big difference with how Bryce Young's played. Kansas State, they're one of those teams that, like, they just play hard. I think that they're going to go into this bowl game, and this matters a lot to them. You know, to Bama, it feels like it's always CFP or bust, and, like, it wouldn't matter whether they won this game or not to them. Like, so Kansas State might be a little bit more motivated. That's the underdog role that they love to play. They loved it, obviously, when they were playing TCU a couple weeks back. Like they thrive in situations like that. That's Kansas State to a T, dude. Like,
it is. They're in a perfect place. Chris Kleiman is like the perfect coach for them. I like what they've built. Like everything in me should hate them because they always have OU's number, and you know they're kind of cocky about that. But man, you just kind of got to respect it. You got to tip your hat to them. They play really hard. They're about a touchdown underdog to Bama right now. All right, we got Iowa and Kentucky in the Music City Bowl. Sneaky, like somewhat interesting game. Got two pretty good programs. It's not the most flashy game, that's for sure.
No.
Looking at an over-under of 31, which I think is another record, right? We broke that record, the over-under record, earlier this year was in an Iowa game. Yeah. And then this one is at 31. Dude, I know that you're supposed to take the under in this situation, but dude, I don't know. Now this is outside at Nashville, and that Nissan Stadium is being played on right now by the Cowboys and Titans. Field could be a little beat up. I'm just saying, and you know me, I'm a big turf guy. You got any thoughts on the Music City Bowl?
No, I'm glad you mentioned the total, just because it is so ridiculously low, and it always is low in these Iowa games. But then you get a defense like Kentucky's, which is actually really solid too. And it's like, I could see it going under, but you're right. Just out of a certain premise, 31 points feels like nothing. If this was a service academy, I'd say, oh, well, no, it probably wouldn't.
Yes.
But this isn't. And like these offenses should have enough, but a lot of guys I'm sure are going to be missing. It's going to be a much different game. I'm assuming Levis isn't playing. I'm assuming Chris Rodriguez is done.
I'm trying to pull it up here.
It's a much different game, I believe, from what I looked at.
Yes. So Will Levis, Chris Rodriguez, and their starting corner, all of them out. Also, they've got a running back in the portal named Kavasier Smoke, who's a pretty dang good player too. He played a lot when Rodriguez was injured or suspended or whatever. He was kind of a weird thing. But I don't know what to think. I didn't realize that Will Levis wasn't going to be playing. I don't know. I may just have to stay away somehow. Like maybe it's
like we want to bet it so bad, but it might be smarter just to watch.
It seems kind of dumb to like force a play here, but here we are. All right, it's time to talk playoff. We're gonna start with TCU, Michigan, the Fiesta Bowl. I was interested. So this is the early game, 3 p.m. I kind of figured it might be the late game, especially with it being West Coast. But, you know, it's obviously neither of these teams are the 1 seed. So sort of makes sense. Michigan 7.5 point favorites, over under 58.5. It's going to be inside this is where the Cardinals play. So it is natural grass, but it's inside. So I don't know, fast turf, who knows? My preview on this game, I think TCU could make it interesting. I think they cover the spread. I'm a little worried to see how they match up physically because this is such a physical game the way Michigan plays. And if they can just push you around, there's no chance. I think this may be a live bet game. I think you just sit there and you watch the first couple snaps, watch the way that offensive line is moving the defensive line, which is a little undersized for TCU. If they're just pushing TCU around, throw that live play in, even though it's going to be like -10 or whatever by then, you know, because they're clearly moving the ball. Because if they can do what they want to do, they will squeeze the life out of TCU, and they just won't have time on offense to get in a rhythm because it's just going to be run from Michigan, and their offense can be on the sideline. That's kind of the way I see it going. But early on, if you see that TCU's putting up a good fight in the trenches, you might fire on the Frogs. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I think, especially in a game like this where there's going to be so many bets coming in, sometimes you do have to get a little bit creative like that.
Yes.
Whether you're doing that, whether you're waiting until halftime to put in like a second half bet, you could even think if you're really confident in one side, like if you thought, okay, like I guarantee TCU can keep it within 10, maybe you tease that up and take like the tease the over down or tease the under up. You might be able to find a way to kind of do a teaser with this game where you get TCU at like plus 13.5, or you get Michigan down to like -1 or -1.5, whatever you want. There's a couple different ways you could go with it. I think you got to get a little bit creative. I don't have an official play on this game. Definitely going to be a game that I could see Michigan running away with. But I also just think that there's something to be said about the motivation of that Frogs team. Every time everybody wants to doubt them outside of that Kansas State game, like they just keep showing up. And they've played physical at times too. So we'll just see, because I know they haven't faced a defense like Michigan yet. So we'll see how they fare. But I don't know if Michigan outside of Ohio State has faced a ton of explosive offenses. Ohio State's about a good point. It. Like Purdue is not an explosive offense. I mean, Maryland is like, I'm trying to name off like Big Ten, but none of these teams outside of Ohio State really have a big explosive offense, like a Big 12 offense like that, So it's an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, we'll have our eyes on it. Obviously, these playoff games are huge. So let's talk about the night game. It's going to be the Peach Bowl, Ohio State, Georgia, in Atlanta, which is a little unfair, but that's the way it breaks. Seems like every time LSU's in it, it's like in the Sugar Bowl. Every time, it's always just these super local games, I swear. Okay, but yeah, so Georgia's 6.5-point favorites, over under 62. This is going to be the best offense I think that Georgia's faced. Well, they did face Tennessee when they were healthy and shut them down. That definitely is a good offense. I could see Ohio State being Oregon, early in the season.
Early,
little different, but they face some teams. That's a good point. Ohio State, I don't know that they've seen a defense like this, and I didn't like the way the Michigan game kind of left. That's the last game they played, and I know that left a sour taste in their mouth, but it's more about the way that game happened. It was just so physically dominant. I don't see why Georgia can't do that exact same game plan with slightly better players and get it something to happen here. The thing that favors Ohio State here is that it is inside. So the elements aren't at play. Their offense can go as fast as it wants to and do its thing. And they've had time to work on a bunch of stuff. But at the same time, I'm worried about that physical nature. And I think Georgia probably pulls away in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have a play on this game, and it's one that I locked in early. So anybody that's been following me on Action Network saw me put it in like right when the Lions got dropped. The line hasn't moved, so that's scary, in a certain sense. But I guess it's not a bad thing. The line stayed at right when it came out, which was 6.5. It stayed at that, even though there's been plenty of bets that have come in each way. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting game. You're right. The matchup itself, for whatever reason, it feels like Ohio State might come into this game and give you a better performance than they did against Michigan, because they're maybe a little bit embarrassed off that. You'd have to think at least that it kind of was a wake-up call. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm going to round out. We've actually got some games on Monday, some college games that I'll just kind of quickly go through. Mississippi State, Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl. It's going to be interesting to see Mississippi State. Obviously, no Mike Leach, but their head coach who was on staff is already hired. So they basically have a coach again. Just to see. It's got to be a very emotional game there for the Bulldogs. Here's an interesting one. Tulane and USC going down in the Cotton Bowl. This is going to be Lincoln Riley returning to the Cotton Bowl where he's had some success. But Tulane, man, I'm interested to see if those fans make their way over to Dallas and if that can kind of feel like a Tulane home game. They bring some swagger to the Cotton Bowl. We'll see. Yeah. Obviously, Tulane won their conference, the American Athletic Conference, so they're a good team. Then we've got the Citrus Bowl, LSU, Purdue. Could be good. I'm interested to see how LSU plays, their season. This would be a great way to cap off their season, I should say. But will they be motivated? Because we've seen some LSU teams when they're not in big-time bowls, they're just kind of like, whatever. We'll see. They have a good season, so it'll be a nice way to finish it out. Then the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, Penn State, Utah, going out at 4 p.m. So Monday's an early one. All the games go on pretty early, but that's okay. It'll be a fun day. I don't know. I think I'm off. I assume I'm off work. I don't know. You got any thoughts on any of those games?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a couple plays on that Monday, which is actually like that's the best thing about this is that like out of all my plays this week, we're gonna have some games on Friday, we're gonna have some Saturday, some Sunday, and some Monday. So like we're gonna have 4 days worth of good football coming up. I'm excited for it, but yeah, we'll get into those Monday plays. Some good games too. It's not like we're picking duds. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good games. Okay, let's look at the NFL slate quickly.
Yep.
We've got Cardinals, Falcons. Falcons kind of eliminated themselves, as we said last week when they lost in that NFC South race. They're the only ones that probably can't do it. You got Bears, Lions. Lions still playing for a lot. I want to hear from you here. Big rivalry. This is in Detroit. Feels like a must win.
Oh, it's a must win. We're 6-point favorites. Everything tells you Lions play better at home. You can't lose to a team like the Bears. I mean, the Bears got 2 or 3 wins right now. They're tanking. Bears fans would probably prefer to lose that game. So really, like if you're a Bears fan out there, shout out our guy JD. You're rooting for the Bears to lose, and I'm rooting for the Lions to win this one. We'll need some things to happen, but you're right. This is a can't lose game. The Bears are not good enough for you to lose and end your season. You have to win these games. Put yourself in a position where you might get lucky and, you slide into that third wild card. Just win out.
See what happens. That's right. So this is the big one. It'll set up that big game in Lambeau against the Packers. Oh, yeah. Some things have to fall that way, but we'll talk about that as we get to it. Broncos, Chiefs. Chiefs really need this one to try and lock up that number 1 spot in the AFC. They're obviously battling with the Bills, who have that spot right now, but Kansas City big favorites. Broncos also in a position to tank at this point in the season. Yep. Dolphins, Patriots. This is a big one in the AFC wild card kind of race. New England at home, 2.5-point favorites. Looks like no Tua from what I understand. He's in concussion protocol again. You got any thoughts on that game?
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tua down the stretch because I hear a lot of these analysts calling that he should be out for the rest of the season.
I've seen that a lot. He should just sit out and not.
Yeah, it's tough because if you're the coach of that team or GM, you're going to say, like, if I don't have any medical evidence telling me, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's an interesting situation. But I think the more interesting situation is the fact that New England, who has looked really bad at times this year, they're still in a position to make the playoffs. They're 2.5-point favorites, which also feels a little, kind of funky because if Tua is not playing, feels like the Patriots maybe should be favored by a little bit more. Is this a trap, like a small kind of under the radar trap? I don't know. I could see this game being a little bit weird. And these Patriots games lately, they're winning games, but they're not necessarily doing it in like the prettiest fashion.
Right.
They're a very defense forward team. They just kind of they get by though. I give them credit.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have Colts, Giants. Colts in one of those wild card spots. Giants in one of those wild card spots. The Colts just kind of want to lose. Giants 5.5-point favorites. I like them to win that one just because I don't think the Colts are really trying, but we shall see. Saints, Eagles. Again, interesting because Saints are very much in play in that NFC South. The Eagles don't have as much to play for, although they need to win one of their last 2 to lock up the 1 seed, lock up the East. Not sure what we're going to get. Philly 6.5-point favorite, so that tells me that Hurts is probably playing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even if Hurts doesn't play, we saw Minshew look really good last week. So who knows? They could probably be 4 or 5-point favorites with Minshew, probably too.
Yeah,
which is crazy to say. But I kind of hope, just for the sake of the Saints and Bucks and Panthers, I kind of want the Saints to win this game. I want chaos in that division. I want all these teams to kind of just be up in the air, and we don't know who's going to win it until the last week of the season. I think it'd be fun. I'm kind of rooting for the Saints just because I want a little bit of chaos. It'd be kind of cool. Saints haven't made the playoffs in a couple years either, I don't think. So it'd be nice for them to push for that division and get Tom Brady a little bit nervous.
Yeah. Why not? It'll be fun. Let's talk about Tom Brady. Panthers, Buccaneers. Huge one for that NFC South matchup. Likely the winner of this game ends up winning the division. The Saints still have a say though. Buccaneers 3-point favorites, at home. They looked really bad against the Cardinals last week. Panthers playing some good football right now, but they are on the road where they're 1-5. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually have a play on this game. I'm excited for it. You're right. Going to be one of the bigger matchups from a standings perspective, because if Tampa Bay can win it, they solidify the division pretty much, you'd think at least. But if Carolina wins it, they might be your favorite to win it, going after that, just because I believe they'd have the tiebreaker on the Bucs at that point. And we'll see. I have a play on it, so I don't want to give away too much of my hand here, but that's going to be a fun game. And the fact that it's a 3-point spread tells you that Vegas thinks this game will be a close one too.
Yeah, should be good. Browns Commanders. This game's big for wild card reasons. We're obviously rooting for the Commanders to lose, but they're 2-point favorites, so not big favorites. And the weather looks like it's going to be decent there in Maryland. What do we need to happen? Do the Commanders just need to lose once, or they need to lose both?
They need to lose one out of the next two.
Okay. Okay.
So it could be this week. I mean, Carson Wentz.
It's only a 2-point game. Carson Wentz, for some reason, is the quarterback now.
Hey, you know what? If they want to do that, they can roll the dice and just see if they can get anything out of Wentz. Seems like it's kind of a bold strategy that could work out, but it could also blow up in their face, and we're all sitting here on Monday saying how stupid. I'd prefer the second option there, but no disrespect to Carson Wentz, but I'd love for it to blow up in their face and them lose to the Browns.
Yes. Okay, so let's move down, and we're looking at Jaguars Texans. The Jaguars win here. That would be massive in that AFC South. Excuse me.
Yeah,
they're 4-point favorites. I've got to play on this game.
Good.
Texans trying to lose. Jaguars need to win. If you kind of get where I'm going with that. Let's look at the next slate in 3:00 though. I guess let's start with it because it's your division. Vikings, Packers. The Vikings, I guess they're still technically playing for that 1 seed in the NFC, but the Packers playing some good ball right now. They're 3.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, it's very, very weird to see, and this keeps happening with the Vikings where they're underdogs, and even though they have so many wins this season, because they got 12 wins, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
that's it.
12.
Yeah, so they got 12 wins, and they just continuously keep being put in these spots where they're underdogs,
every week.
And it doesn't make sense. I know everything, the deep numbers and stuff back, but they're winning games, and we keep saying that. So I hope they kind of pull it off this week. It would put a little bit of pressure on Green Bay. I'm not sure if it would just completely eliminate them out, of the playoff race in general. I don't have all the deep numbers to see where that would put them, but it might put a little bit of pressure on Green Bay, and they might be out enough where some of the guys sit in week 17 or 18.
Yeah,
I should say.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but I'll be rooting for the Vikings. Might as well, because
yeah. So we've got another one that affects both AFC wildcard and NFC wildcard. 7-8 Jets at 7-8 Seahawks. Very interesting. These teams are very much in play still for a playoff spot. Jets seem to be kind of reeling, and the Seahawks have the stock has started to drop a little bit on them. You got any quick thoughts on that game?
Yeah, we're going to get Mike White back, which is
return of Mike White. You're absolutely right. Yep. That's a big deal.
Zach Wilson has been basically banished from the team. He's not even the second string. Yeah, he's they said, nope, Flacco took your spot. He went from starter to third string, essentially.
Well, technically fourth, because remember they have that other guy that came in for him last game. So just really he's the fourth string quarterback now.
Just wild. I mean, a lot of things can change. So we'll see. I'm excited for Mike White to be back just because something about the vibes with the team when Mike White was in there, they seem to be playing some better football. Does he come in and kind of just rejuvenate that team? Maybe. But also Seattle, they're right in the playoff race too themselves. So do they kind of get a little bit of a kickstart here and maybe get things going? We'll see. A lot of things going for that game, obviously, from a wild card perspective as well.
Yes. Be a big one. Rams, Chargers. Rams in a position where they don't have their first round pick, so they don't really care if they win or lose. Right. Us Rams fans want them to lose, but Baker Mayfield's got them playing some decent football. Chargers 6.5-point favorites, though. That probably tells you a lot. You got any thoughts on the battle for LA?
No, not too much. It'd be good for Baker to get a little bit of things kind of rolling. Maybe a close loss would be the way to do that, because I'd love to see Baker kind of make a case for himself, probably more for another team next year, because I
Yeah.
doubt the Rams would just go away from Stafford. Stafford said he's coming back. Be shocked if they said, "Oh, we're going to give the job to Baker Mayfield next year," because it doesn't seem logical.
Yeah.
They could, but I just don't see why they would do that. So I hope Baker has an opportunity with somebody else next year.
Yeah.
So give me like a 1 or 2 point loss. You know what I mean? Like that'd be perfect.
That would be. Let's talk about Sunday night game. They flexed this game into Sunday night over the battle for LA, and I'm a little salty about it. 7-8 Steelers, 10-5 Ravens. Obviously a good rivalry. I'm not trying to take that away from it, but it's over under 35. Baltimore's 2.5 point favorites. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, from a watchability standpoint, it's definitely not going to be your most high scoring, just electric offense game. I believe is Lamar playing? It sounds like Huntley might be the starter for that game.
Yeah, I think so.
And Pittsburgh, at 7-8, I'm not sure. They might be able to have a backdoor to maybe find themselves into a wild card themselves. And they have a solid defense. The fact that they're only 2.5 point underdogs on the road says a lot about that Pittsburgh team. They're kind of scrappy. I just hope we get a close game. Hopefully it's a higher scoring game than 35 points. Just, from a watchability standpoint. But if it's close, these teams always seem to put up some fun matchups. The AFC North is always a pretty good, division for some of these games. They play hard.
Yeah. Okay. So then Bills, Bengals on Monday night. Bills, this is a huge game. Bills have that 1 seed. The Bengals aren't far off. Like some things could go their way and they could technically get that 1 seed. But right now, Buffalo 1 point favorite on the road, over under 49.5. Should be a much more fun game there in Cincinnati. Not even sure who I like there. That's really a true toss up. Both teams playing some great football right now. Should be a great game.
Yeah, at least if we're going to have a 35 point total on Sunday Night Football, we're getting probably
50.
one of the best matchups on Monday Night Football. I mean, you're getting Burrow, Josh Allen, and a 1 point spread. And to be honest, I kind of like that the game's in Cincy, just because I think there's a better chance that the offenses are rolling. The fact that it's in Cincy versus being in Buffalo, where we're seeing people being snowed in, where they can't leave their houses and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the game might be able to be a little bit more offense, minded with the game being in Cincy. So hopefully we get a really fun one. I'd love to see Burrow and Josh Allen just go back and forth slinging it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
that's what we deserve.
We do. We deserve it, man.
Okay, so let's get into the picks portion of the show. Obviously, a lot going on still. And I guess if you have any in the weeds picks, we could start there.
Yeah, I got one in the weeds pick. It's kind of tough to find some of the in the weeds right now because most of the games aren't. But I do have one play that's a very in the weeds bowl game. And that's going to be Wyoming and Ohio. I'm going to take the under 42 points in this game. Okay. And I got to say, man, like I'm almost, swallowing a little bit of throw up in the back of my throat. This game makes me want to puke. It's going to be so bad, dude. Wyoming has the number 109 scoring offense in the nation.
Wow.
They don't score, dude. Like that's their brand of football. It's just playing defense, not scoring a ton of points. And that offense, for being number 109 in the country, they're also going to be missing their top running back, Titus Swen. Ohio's going to be missing their quarterback, Tanner Rourke.
Oh, wow, that's big.
Yeah. So he's out for the year. I know he was kind of banged up. They didn't know if he might be able to come back. He's out for the year. And Ohio's offense looked pretty bad with C.J. Harris in the MAC championship. Like they didn't put up a ton of points. They looked ugly. They kind of looked out of sync. The fact that C.J. Harris is in there, I give him all the credit in the world. I hope he does good. And other games going forward in his career, but they don't look comfortable right now. And I don't think they're going to do very well against that Wyoming defense. So give me a really bad Wyoming offense. It's going to be missing their top running back, and give me an Ohio offense. It's missing their quarterback, and just, they're going to struggle. I think this game's very ugly under 42.
Okay. I've got one that I guess could be considered in the weeds, but it also is kind of just a best bet pick. I like Iowa in the matchup versus Kentucky. Iowa minus 2.5 is what I'm looking at right now. Kentucky's just missing a lot. And this already a team that's had some disappointing results this season. On top of that, the SEC hasn't exactly been amazing in bowls so far. Especially, like I said, the vibes are just down right now for Kentucky. So I'm going to roll with Iowa. It's not pretty. That's kind of why I said it should go in the weeds, maybe, because I don't even really want to watch the game. I just want to cash this ticket. So I'll go Iowa minus 2.5.
I like it. Yeah, that's considered in the weeds because we don't have a ton of. I mean, there's most of the games we're seeing this weekend are finally like top tier teams. So
yeah. Yes.
No disrespect to Iowa and Kentucky, but I would say that's a lower on the watchability scale. It's a total of 31. A lot of people aren't going to be watching that game. So
exactly.
Right. So moving into the best bets, I'll start out. I'm going to take NC State -1 versus Maryland. I really like this one. You could take a money line. So probably let's say NC State money line, because if you're going to do -1, you might as well just do the money line at that point.
Yeah, maybe I see it at -120. So that's like 10 cents worse.
So might as well. So we'll say NC State money line. This has everything to do with, as good as we talk about Tagovailoa and this Maryland offense, they're going to be missing multiple receivers in this game, which really matters to me because I think Tagovailoa is really going to struggle. Maryland is 7-0 when they're running for 130 yards or more on the ground, and they're 0-5 when they don't. That matters to me a lot because NC State's thing is run defense. They come into this game 11th in the nation against the run, so they can take away the run on Maryland. And as I said, when Maryland doesn't run for over 130 yards rushing, they're 0-5. They're a team that really needs the run to be working to be able to open up the pass game for Tagovailoa, which is a pass game that's going to be missing multiple receivers. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I know NC State, obviously, no Leary, but we like our guy MJ Morris. He did good enough for me in those limited games for me to feel confident they could put up enough points in a low-scoring game where we cover this one. I think Maryland is going to have issues without having that running game because NC State will shut that down. I think NC State can kind of just give us – it might be an ugly win, but I think they'll give us at least like a 3 or 4 point win. So I'm going to take NC State money line there.
Okay, I've got a play here. We're looking at Notre Dame and South Carolina. I'm taking the over 50. Both these teams, they don't play exactly amazing offense, but it's good. And then they don't necessarily play amazing defense, but it's okay. It's like pretty good. I just think both these offenses are clicking right now. Both teams have a lot to play for. They're very excited about their programs. Not a very high total. Jacksonville, the weather's going to be good. It's freaking Florida. Like it's freaking 70 or something. I love it. Give me this over 50 in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. It's as good as it gets, baby. I like it. I like it. We're gonna go to the CFP, man. Because this is my one CFP play I have so far. I'll probably get a play on the other game as well. But this is the one I said I locked in early, and that's gonna be Georgia -6.5. Locked it in early. I just think this is one of those games where Ohio State might be able to keep it close for 3 quarters, but I just think Georgia is able to impose their will. And they do it late. You know what I mean? Whether they could do it all game, they might make this a blowout, but I think they do it late. Probably we get a 7-point win, 10-point win, whatever it is. I just think they close this one out in the, third quarter, fourth quarter, and they really kind of just are too much for that Ohio State team that just, they looked a little bit ugly against Michigan late in the game. I don't think they can last. Georgia's looking at this one like a business trip. You know what I mean? And to go off of a quote actually from Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy, he said it matters when you've been here. He said last year we were just excited to kind of be, in this position and able to play Georgia. And J.J. McCarthy was saying he's like we're looking at this way, way, way different. It's not we're just excited to get in. We're expecting to be in the national championship. I'm not saying Ohio State's not expecting that because Ohio State's a great program themselves, but I think that they slid into this. They weren't playing in the Big Ten championship. I think Georgia is as much of a business trip as it gets right now. They're so locked in. They want to make this 2 years in a row. Just everything about this Georgia team to me feels like this is just kind of business like they just roll in. They do their thing. Stetson Bennett, I think he's actually having a better year than he did last year. Obviously, he was a Heisman finalist and stuff, but I think he has a big game against a rather weak Ohio State team. I would say like that defense is nothing special. I think Bennett can do it, man. So -6.5 is what I got on that game. I hope it doesn't bite me in the ass because I'd hate for Georgia to just completely fall on their face here.
But that's the thing. I'm on the same play, Beast. I want Georgia -6.5. Same play here. This is a big handshake moment.
Let's go.
There's not a lot of games where you can point to and be like, yeah, Georgia fell on their face, right? Especially in a big spot. They're beating up on teams like Bama. They look great in the SEC championship game. I think they just squeezed the life out of Ohio State. We have to also remember this explosive Ohio State offense. They haven't played in a long time. That last game was against Michigan, and that was a week before the conference championship week. So they've been off an additional week on top of everything else. Sometimes that gets you out of rhythm a little bit. I think that first half is going to be detrimental to them. It's going to take them too long to get going, and Georgia's going to have control of the game, and they can take risks like just sending big blitzes every play or whatever, get CJ Stroud rattled a little bit. Love Georgia in the spot. -6.5. Go Dogs.
I like it. Yeah. No, I mean, that's really the way to look at it. It's just that Georgia, they play a very, it's almost like you see how like the Patriots when they were in their I guess like historical run for like 10, 15 years there. They played a very sound fundamental football that you never saw them really fall on their face. But anyway, so we're gonna move on. We got another game that's going to be a really fun one. This one's going to be a game I think we have a ton of points in, and that's going to be Tulane and USC taking over 62 points, man. I mean, I don't have to explain to you guys how good Caleb Williams is. I mean, he's the Heisman winner. But they also have a defense on USC that is pretty suspect and just got smoked by Utah for the second time this year, for that matter. Shout out Utah, and they've looked suspect in other weeks too. So like you have a really solid USC offense with a Heisman quarterback and a pretty suspect defense, in my opinion. USC's offense, obviously number 4 in the country in scoring, but people forget Tulane can score too. Number 23 in the country in scoring defense or scoring offense, I should say, for Tulane. So they're top 25 offense in the country. No matter how you want to slice that, they can put up points. And against the USC defense that, like I said, they have holes. I think they'll be able to put up some points. Do I think USC probably still wins this game? Sure. But I think Tulane can hang around. I think that PG made a really good point. Tulane's not playing in games like this typically, so their fans are going to travel. The team's taking this one really, really serious. To USC, this might not be that big of a deal. Like they got bigger and brighter things in their future. They're kind of hoping with Lincoln Riley. Yeah. Tulane, this might be as big of a bowl game as they're going to get for the next 15 years. No disrespect to them. That's how it goes half the time when you're non-Power 5. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Tulane to play a fired up, kind of offense here, and USC will put up the points too. So we're going to take over 62 there, man.
Love it. I'm tailing it. I just put it in the app. So I absolutely love that play. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, we've been on a bunch of Tulane overs.
Hell yeah.
And we love USC's offense. So let's go. Their defense isn't going to be exactly fired up to play against freaking Tulane. They're going to be, I don't even know who we're playing. It's some wave team or something. So I love that. I have a play on the other playoff game, the Fiesta Bowl. I'm taking the Frogs plus 7.5. Okay. Part of this is me asking, once again, TCU football, unblock potato gobbler. Go Frogs here. I think they've got a decent shot at an upset, and you made a great point in the initial breakdown of this game where you said Michigan hasn't faced a lot of teams that have a kind of a pulse on offense, really. I mean, they did a great job against Ohio State in that one and made Ohio State's offense look bad, really. But this is a totally different, type of test with a veteran quarterback in Max Duggan. We love him and what this what this TCU team can do. Again, I think if you look at this game and right off the bat, it looks like, oh man, Michigan's just running them over. That's when you may just hedge out of your TCU bet, just take Michigan -8 or whatever it is at that point. You're going to know pretty quick if they can match up, but I really think they can. They've got a bunch of seniors, bunch of dogs. Max Duggan's our guy. Unblocked potato gobbler.
Yeah, TCU unblocked PG. I love it, man. That'll be like what was our hashtag that we had? Was it just like hashtag unblock PG? I forget what we had.
I think it was unblocked potato gobbler, but yeah.
Unblock, yeah. We'll run with that. Yeah, that's the unblocked potato gobbler play of the week, baby. All right, Frogs. So moving into the NFL, I got a couple NFL plays here that I'm excited about. The first one I'm going to go into, man, I got to go with the team that, I watched last week, looked really good against the Lions. That's Carolina +3 at Tampa Bay. Everybody's going to call me crazy for going against Tom Brady. I got to say, I was really impressed with Carolina last week, and it wasn't just last week. There's been a few weeks recently where they've looked really impressive. Their offensive line that was the big thing that really stood out to me last week. They were pushing guys around. They looked dominant. And I also think something's cooking over there in Carolina with Sam Darnold. When he's hot, and he had a couple games like that last season too, where he played like a 3 or 4 game stretch last season where I was like, damn, Sam Darnold might have just turned the corner.
Yeah.
And then he fell off. But he looked really good, last week, and he had some really nice throws. They're a hot hand right now, you know what I mean? And it's kind of, that's really what the whole play here is that it doesn't feel like Carolina at 5-9 should be, a +3 dog on the road against Tom Brady and this Tampa Bay team that is looked at as, a guaranteed playoff team.
A sleeping giant.
Yeah. It's such a trap to me. I think that Carolina actually can roll into this game, and they have enough things going their way right now. They're kind of the hot hand is really what I'm going with here. We're going to roll with the hot hand and +3. That's a whole field goal. That's a lot in the NFL. So I think they keep this one close. They might even win it. I wouldn't be shocked, man.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, so I've got just 2 NFL plays. First one I'm starting off with, pretty simple, and it may seem overly basic to people, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. I'm going Jacksonville -4 on the road in Houston. Now, Houston's been extremely scrappy. We know what they're doing, but they're trying to lose. Like, they don't care. Jacksonville absolutely needs this game. Like, they have to win this game. They want to get in the playoffs. They're playing pretty good football right now. I know not a lot of people are talking about it because it's not very pretty, but it's good. There's kind of a difference there. So I think this is just one of those spots. You can find these spots late in the season. What's the motivation factor like? I think Houston has been gritty as can be these last couple weeks, but it's like, how long does that go on for? Like, you guys are basically done with the season. Another win and that number 1 pick gets a little bit in jeopardy. Not really, but they could still lose it, I'm pretty sure. So it's not locked up yet, but a loss here, I think, would definitely 100% lock it up. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Again, Jacksonville's playing some good football, so I'll go Jacksonville -4.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. It's a good motivation play. Just what these teams are playing for at this point in the season for sure. I'm going to go to a game I think is going to actually be very ugly, and that's going to be Browns-Commanders. I'm going to take under 40.5 points in this one. There's been a lot of games recently that I've just, felt like the Browns defense is the only reason they're staying in games. The last 3 games, they're holding teams to 14.3 points per game. So, like, their defense is actually playing a really, really solid brand of football. Is Deshaun Watson really figuring it out? I don't really know. That offense, they're still kind of relying on Nick Chubb right now, but that's okay. That's perfect for an under. And the Commanders, on the other hand, like, they have a pretty solid defense themselves. They're number 12 in scoring defense, but in plenty of other categories, they've shown they can stop the run at times. Like, they're a solid team. And you're going to give me Carson Wentz rolled out there. I don't think he's going to be super comfortable. It's his first game back in a while. It just has everything that brews for an under 40.5 points to me. I know that seems like a low number, but I could see the Browns. If the Browns win this game, it's going to be by defense. If the Commanders win this one, I think it's going to be by defense too. So either way, like, whichever team wins, I think that they win it with their defense. I don't think that this is a game where, oh man, we put up 30 points and that's why we won. Like, that's just not happening to me. So I think we get an under here, and I think both teams probably want to establish the ground game and stuff because neither team's probably confident in their quarterback this week. I wouldn't be.
No, you kind of can't be. Okay, so I'm going to the lovely metropolis of Detroit. I'm taking the Detroit Lions team total over 28.5.
Okay.
Obviously not the perfect football number, but we know how well Jared Goff plays at home. I've also got him in the fantasy football championship as my quarterback right now. So I'm team Goff. I'm bleeding blue all the way. Chicago's defense, not much to play for. Not only that, they've traded away like all their best players as well. They're trying to lose this game, kind of as Beast alluded to earlier when we did the breakdowns. So I want Detroit Lions team total over 28.5. Obviously, wish I could get it at 28 because that's a clean 4 touchdowns. But I see no problem here hitting this over. So let's go Lions.
I think that's the way to do it. No, because if you take -6 or -6.5, whatever the Lions are at right now, you do risk some ugly backdoor cover that we're sitting there, at 4:25 in the afternoon, and we're bitching about it because it's like Lions won this game handily, and then they were up 13 late, and they gave up a touchdown for us, to miss that cover. So that's the way to do it because I see the Lions putting up 30 in this one minimum. You're right, Goff's just different at home, so I got one more. Yeah, I got one more NFL play before we kind of get to Moneyline Dogs. I'm going to take Jets -1.5 at Seattle here. I said I love Mike White being back. I also just think that Seattle defense, number 29 in the league in points per game allowed, that matters to me because even if this Jets offense is not that great, I think they could do something against that number 29 defense in the league. And Seattle's offense, as much as they looked awesome to start the season, I think they fell off a little bit. They're kind of reeling. I know the Jets are reeling too, but I think Mike White comes back, sparks a little bit of life into that offense for the Jets, and -1.5. I think they could cover that on the road. People think it's really tough traveling to Seattle. Maybe it was back in like 2015, but I don't really think it is now, with Geno Smith and the boys running things over there. So I think Jets can win this one. They're fighting for the wild card themselves. I think that they could pull it off. Jets -1.5 there. I like it.
Okay. All right. Well, I've kind of exhausted my best bets. So if you have any more, we can do that. I've got my Moneyline Dog ready though.
Yeah. Fire it off, man.
Okay, so I'm going right back to that Barstool Bowl, the Arizona Bowl, and I'm taking Wyoming Cowboys +120. It's a bit of a fate of the MAC. We love the MAC. We would never disrespect the MAC. It's just without Rourke, this Ohio team's much different. And that's one of the bigger that I can think of, like a single player kind of impact of any of these bowl teams, especially this late in the year. Rourke's a great player. If you've watched Ohio, and probably a lot of people haven't, just be honest, but that he's a big player for them. So I love the Cowboys here. A lot of motivation reasons as well. Just straight south for them, basically. So they're not too terribly far from home. Let's go Cowboys.
I like it. I do. Because I'm gonna be on that under, obviously, in that game. And I think that the way
double
that game
dip.
Yeah, we could too. And that would be a nice one to get, obviously, because a +125 money line to cash that as well. And I think that the way that game could for sure go is Wyoming just wins that one with their defense. They have a solid defense. So we'll see how that one goes. But I'm going to go to the Rose Bowl. I'm going to take Penn State money line. It's not a big money line, but +110, +115 on some books versus Utah. Penn State, loving them. Number 8 scoring defense in the country. That defense has been solid all season. And really, they dominated everybody on their schedule outside of Michigan, Ohio State. They didn't play super good against Purdue, but they pulled that game off. That was the first week of the season. And then after that Purdue game, they dominated every single team they played outside of Michigan, Ohio State. And those two teams are in the CFP. So, what do you expect? You know what I mean? They've dominated everybody else on that schedule. And I really like that running back duo they got there with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I mean, arguably one of the best running back duos in the country. Both guys ripping off over 5.2 yards per carry. I want to say both guys were eclipsed over 800 and something yards on the season. I mean, they're awesome. They are one of the best running back duos. I think they can put up some points on Utah. And I think Penn State, why should they not be favored in this game? You know what I mean? They've done enough for me to think they could win this game. So we'll take their money line at +110. Small little dog, but I like them a lot, man.
Okay, there you have it. There's our money line dogs. I guess quickly, let's get into the pod parlay, which has been kind of hot lately. This is kind of just our 2 favorite bets of the weekend matched up. You have any ideas for yours?
Yeah, so I'm going to go NC State -1 against Maryland. That was the one that I kind of led off with, where I just said Maryland, much different team when they have the run game working. 7-0 when they're over 130 yards rushing, 0-5 when they're not. So when you have an NC State team that's number 11 in rushing defense, that matters to me, and I think NC State covers this one. So NC State money line is what we said. So throw that one in there, man.
Okay, I'm going to go with the over in the Notre Dame South Carolina game. There in Jacksonville. I just like it. The offenses aren't amazing, but this isn't that high of a total, and their defenses have given up some points, especially lately. So there you have it. It's the +265, whatever it is, teaser. It's going to be very fun. 2 college games. Pod parlay has been hot, so you never know with the pod parlay. But yeah, that's it for the show. Do you have anything you want to say as we kind of wrap up?
No, maybe we'll try to see if, especially with the early game for the CFP, maybe we could do a Twitter space or something.
Yes, we're gonna try to do some Twitter spaces for sure.
Yeah, I know the late one will be tough because people probably got plans and stuff going out and whatever.
We could one thing that we do sometimes with that is like a halftime during that game. Kind of, so if anyone's got any second half kind of things they like, or we can kind of talk, if the game's already kind of wrapped up, we can talk about maybe the national championship. So yeah, probably halftime of the Peach Bowl is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we could figure it out. Obviously, more details to come on that, so just kind of stay tuned to our Twitter. But I think that'd be kind of fun. I'm sure a lot of the guys at the network would want to kind of do something like that too. So we'll collab with them guys and see what they want to do, man.
Yep. Shout out to the Coda Cappers. Keep your eyes peeled for that stuff coming. Be sure to follow Potato Gobbler, Coda Capper Beast as well. The big boys doing the thing. It's been a great season. We're kind of winding down now, but the pod's been great. It's been a lot of fun to make.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, with that said, we'll see you guys Tuesday morning. We'll talk about all this crazy weekend we're about to have. It's going to be jam-packed with football. A bit of a last ride for college as the games are kind of wrapping up, but we'll still have the national championship on January 9th. So that'll be fun. But anyways, we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace out.